I did a little bit. Let me hear your voice.
Okay, how's it now? Any better?
It's great. Look at the red, white, and blue on the table tonight. We've got a lot of neat stuff to talk about tonight, gentlemen. We've got a good group of guys and a lot of wonderful folks out there watching us shoot this show. How wonderful is that? And we're going to do some slides tonight talking about a container port. All right, Campbell Rice is running camera for us tonight.
All right.
Ready?
Wait, someone has to count down.
Campbell, give us a countdown, please.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
The What's Neat This Week video podcast is supported by enthusiastic model railroaders just like you. Additional support is provided by Yelsma Graphics, America's leading distributor of quality railroad art and embroidered clothing since 1985. Check out their website at yelsma.com. And by GL Robotics, with over 61 colors of 3D printing filaments in stock, your gateway to new technology. Check out their website at glroboticsusa.com. And by American Limited Models, the relentless pursuit of accuracy. Check out their website at AmericanLimitedModels.com. Further support is provided by the NCE Corporation, the power of DCC. Visit their website at ncedcc.com. And thank you for supporting the What's Neat This Week podcast. This is the What's Neat This Week show in model railroading, show number 171 for October 2nd, 2021. I'm your host, Ken Patterson, the host of that wonderful show at Model Railroad Hobbyist Magazine called What's Neat, where we get our hands dirty, how-tos, interviews, and all the neat stuff that you guys have grown to love since 2012, and I love producing that show. And the November show is just about wrapped up, and boy, we got some neat stuff in that one coming up. Rock and roll. Did I just say that? Tonight, we've got with us Mike Buddy. Hey, Mike.
Hey, everybody.
It's good to have you with us tonight. On the other side of me, I've got Sugar Fire Joshua Barton.
Hello, everyone.
Joshua, I'm so glad you're here. You make everybody smile. And on the end, we've got James Regier.
Hi.
James, have you tried the salmon?
I have. It's great.
That's not an inside joke. We all understand that one. We've got a lot of interesting models on the table tonight, and we're going to talk about some neat stuff. But I'm going to start out by talking about something very interesting that I did on Wednesday night. I was on a Zoom call with people from around the world, and it was the first time I've ever taken place in something like that. And in fact, James Regier was on it with us. It was nice to have you. And this is something that Lionel Strang does that coincides with his Modeler's Life podcast. If you belong to Lionel's Patreon account, this is one of the perks that they give you, where every Wednesday they have what they call the Wednesday night chat. And it was very interesting. We had gentlemen from Australia, from around the world. Like I said, the conversation was absolutely interesting. And I met some really cool people. I'm going to name 3 of them that really stuck out, that actually talked with me. And one of them was Neil Erickson. He's in Hawaii. Neil, you live in God's paradise, I know that. Another gentleman was Roger Coleman. He was very polite. He's a CSX modeler and new to the hobby. And in fact, he said it was the What's Neat shows that sparked him to want to get interested in trains. Really? He's absolutely just gotten into the hobby.
Yeah.
And we also had Angela Sutton. Angela is one of those people that I want to have on the show because we do try to bring women into the show to show that there are, in fact, artists out there that share the hobby with us. And Angela was one of those people. She lives all the way out on the East Coast. Angela, shout out to you. It was wonderful meeting you, and you're checking out your Facebook page. She models N-scale and hand lays her own track.
That stuff looked amazing.
Code 55 rail. It was just absolutely great, Angela. Great modeling. Now, we've got a lot of neat stuff on the table, but we're going to talk about something that's new that has just been announced, and that is the Bachmann. This is a brand new Amtrak locomotive, the ACL 42 Charger locomotive, and this comes with TCS Wow Sound. This locomotive is in the black paint job, and it's got the otherwise pointless arrow, what some people call the pointless arrow, and otherwise a lot of people call it the motion mark that worked for Amtrak. And that's the old paint scheme that came out right around 1973 when they formed Amtrak.
Yeah.
And this is different than the Charger, the original Charger locomotive that we have featured on the show. What Bachmann Industries did was they followed the actual construction of the real prototype, and as the prototype got tweaked and made changes, they made changes to the model. So this is very unusual and it's very accurate. So look forward to that. This is a one-time run. The this model will never be manufactured again after this one run. So this is one of those things where it's already sold out at the distributor and hobby shop level. So that's where you've got to purchase it at, is with your favorite hobby shop. And in this case, I would say Spring Creek out in Deshler, Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
Those folks out there are absolutely wonderful. They will have this in stock. And this is one of those models that after it does sell out, just like tangent models and Rapido models, you'll see those selling double in price on eBay.
Yeah.
There'll be a feeding frenzy to receive one of these models. I did a great interview with the folks out at Bachman. It was really nice, and that will appear in the November What's Neat show. Another thing we've got on the table, and this was something that normally doesn't happen. Usually when I purchase something from Walthers, they don't usually back order, but in fact, this is something that James Regier had ordered. And the first model we're going to talk about is this bicentennial steam generator car that James had ordered to go with your consist. How would they use that car in a consist, and what year would that obviously be? 76?
Well, this would have been the early to mid 70s when the Santa Fe made this repaint, and you would have seen it on the Super Chief, the Amtrak version of the Super Chief, obviously, or the Southwest Limited later on. So what happened is the Santa Fe just had a handful of B units and F7A units. The B units didn't have the steaming capacity for those long trains anymore.
How about that?
There were mechanical issues, and so they made these steam generator cars out of their Pullman standard baggage cars, and would run those on trains. Now, another version of this was available on their Denver connection in their recently released Denver connection and Super Chief combination. Now, this would have had more of a paint scheme semblance to this car, that it was the standard silver. But in the 70s, they did repaint them for the celebration of the bicentennial.
That's very cool, James. I love it that you know this information. The other one is a 74-foot Pullman standard baggage car in silver with the modern Santa Fe logo on it, James. And what would that car, where would that have run?
So this was a staple on the Santa Fe's business train, so that you would have seen it running on all the VIP executive specials.
Okay. Fantastic. Now tonight we're going to talk about 3D printers, because that is such an up-and-coming technology that is really taken over our hobby. I mean, it's made it so much easier than scratch building so many different projects, especially when it comes to replication of the same model over and over again.
Yeah.
And for this, I'm going to hand it to James Regier, because James does know all about this. These printers are available for G&L Robotics. Our friend Greg Summerland out there, just an absolutely wonderful man. You can see their website at glrobotics.com, and they've got customer service, and that's the key to this. That's why, look, whenever we discuss something, when it comes to being somebody that helps us support the hobby, it's got to be something that we absolutely believe in. And I believe in Greg Summerlin out there, because they have complete customer support. If there's any questions for setup, or if you have any problems with your machine, he will absolutely take care of it, as opposed to if you bought it on Amazon. Now you're taking the risk of, if you have a problem, you've got to deal with the manufacturer's warranty, and that probably means contacting somebody in China. So this is great in that they have customer service, and that I like, because we want all of our viewers to be supported. So tell us about the printers, and tell us what they're used for.
So as a matter of fact, I'll just add to that, they do price matching with the factory direct Anycubic printer products. So they're a full service Anycubic dealer.
Okay.
And so they give you that customer support. And as I discovered when some things went wrong with my Photon S,
I remember that.
I had to Google what was going on. I tried writing their technical support in China. Unfortunately, English is not their first language, and so what I got was, it wasn't clear to me that they understood what was going on. So with GL Robotics, you actually have someone that's listening. It's glroboticsusa.com.
USA, it's important to get that USA in there, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's Gulf Lima Robotics, for those of you who do the NATO alphabet.
Gulf Lima, is that right?
Yeah, for NATO alphabet, right? So
NATO
GL,
alphabet.
yeah, because C, D, G can all sound similar.
Right.
Anyway, so they have several of the Anycubic printers available. They have the MegaPro with laser engraver and 3D printer, and this is FDM, fused deposit or deposition molding. The build volume is 210 by 210 by 205 millimeters.
Okay.
And it has a laser engraver so that you can actually take out that printer extruder and put on a laser engraver. It's not a powerful enough laser to serve as a laser cutter, so you're not going to be able to make those plywood models. but you will be able to engrave things if you want to, make a special plaque for a special event or a special person in your life, whatever you want. But it's kind of a neat thing since you have it basically programmed into the printer anyway, that you have that thing change out.
So you're saying I can't print one for my special person in my life, but go ahead.
You could if you wanted to. I wouldn't rule anything out. But the Anycubic, then they also have the Anycubic MegaX, also an FDM printer with the largest print volume available. It's 300 by 300 by 305 millimeters.
Is that the biggest on the market?
It's basically a cubic foot.
That's pretty big.
It's the biggest consumer level. Now, of course, if you go to the professional level, you're going to be paying thousands of dollars.
Right.
But this one runs at about 300.
Wow, they got 329. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
329. That's
And
correct.
that's pretty good size area to print.
And in fact, when I was talking with him on the phone, he says that he does a lot of cosplay masks. That if you're wanting to do Batman or something like that, it's about the right size to be able to fit onto your head, and do that kind of thing. So. But in the model railroading application, if you want to, design a building in 3D graphics and print that out, you can do most of a fairly sizable building. Now they also have the Anycubic Max Pro 2.0.
Yes.
And this one's also FDM. It has the advantage of being a fully enclosed printer for added protection against accidental bumps or interference that might happen if you have kids around, or it might happen, or it also protects from emissions from PLA plastics that some of those create emissions that you don't want to breathe. This helps to protect the off gas, and this helps to protect you from that at least during the production process while it's molten.
Fascinating.
So, and it has a build volume of 270 by 210 by 190 millimeters. This one also is equipped with ultra-quiet stepper drivers so that hopefully it will not irritate other people in the house with the loud noise of that an FDM 3D printer can make. Yeah.
I remember that 3D Ideal Builder from Dremel did make noise.
Now, the final printer on the list is the Anycubic Fiber. This is what he recommends for the beginner in the hobby, because in addition to all these features of the Anycubic MegaX or the MegaPro, it doesn't have the full enclosure, but it does have auto leveling.
Which one's a Viper?
The Viper is right there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Viper has auto leveling so that print bed will automatically adjust so that it's the right distance from your extruder, which is actually very important and saves a lot of heartache and wasted prints when you discover that the whole thing was not aligned properly and you have just a mess of filament in your printer.
So the first four that you've described use filament.
These are filament printers.
Okay, so that's the rolls of the color.
It looks like a weed eater roll, right?
Yeah.
Right?
And yeah, and these are all programmable so that you can pause them at any time, put in a different color of filament. They offer several different colors of filament. But you can pause them at any time. They're all equipped with heated beds, which further helps the filament to adhere to the print bed, which is important. And they are all equipped with auto stop. If it should sense that you run out of filament or that your filament broke, it will stop the print. And unlike the printer that I have, it will not just continue printing nothing until you get to the top, and all of a sudden it's like a waste.
That's really kind of
yeah.
neat. And then you
So
change the filament and it'll start right back up
Right,
again?
right.
Okay,
Wow.
that's awesome.
And they also have auto shut off for when the print finishes, so that you're not running fans wasting electricity all night on that.
I like that.
So that's
Now the next ones you're going to talk about is the new resin technology.
these are the newer resin technology.
And that's the stuff that it's like a liquid in the
It's a
bottom.
liquid.
And
It's a liquid
that's
photosensitive
what I'm
resin.
interested in,
Yeah,
is something
so-
like that.
So the
So-
finished things are a lot smoother.
Right. And here you got to think about print volume and that kind of thing of what you want to build. We'll get into more of that in just a little bit. But the Anycubic Mono SE, and that's that one right there, Ken,
Okay.
has a full enclosure
showing
to
them
it.
on the screen.
It has a lift-up door. It's
Okay.
very similar to the Photon SE, or no, the Photon S that I have that I printed this beep on and all these Clydesdales.
Okay.
Which, by the way, the Clydesdales are here because the St. Louis Cardinals are now in the playoffs and on their biggest winning
Yes.
streak in the
Red
history of the
October.
franchise. So, yeah, so I just had to bring them. So Anycubic Photon Mono SE has build volume of 130 by 78 by 160, which is the same as the Photon S.
Okay.
It has the advantage of having a 6-inch 2K monochrome LCD for 3D printing that's actually 3 times faster than the Photon or the Photon S. So that's actually an important thing because it takes hours to do these prints, and a reduction by 2/3 of the time is very significant. And the monochrome LCD is supposed to last longer than the RGB monitor or the RGB print face that was included in the Photon.
So that's the light
Photon
that
S.
cures things?
What that is, it functions as a shutter between the ultraviolet light source and the print bed.
I'm so glad you know this
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
because
So-
I don't. I'm learning.
So it also offers the new feature of having a remote control via the Anycubic app.
Okay.
So that you can actually stop the print or schedule the print, restart the print, or monitor the progress of the print. So now so then there's the Anycubic Photon Mono X, and that's the largest one that you see there on the bottom row. And it's an SLA resin printer with a build volume of 192 by 120 by 245 millimeters.
Wow.
So the
What's that
advantage.
translate to in English for me? Like, how about how
So
big is
it's an 8.9-inch diagonal.
that? Okay.
So it's 4K monochrome, so it's ultra high resolution, so that you can get probably one of the highest resolutions available today.
So that means there's not going to be any lines.
That means that the lines will be minimized. And the real advantage, if I were printing the beep today,
Yes.
it would be ideal for that, because when I was printing the frame, I had to have it at a significant angle. And what happens when you have to print things at angles, those print lines really start to creep in.
Hold on, let me stop you. The reason that you had to have it at an angle is because your bed wasn't big enough.
Because the bed was not big enough.
Right. I remember
Right.
you showed me that.
Yeah, yeah. But this Photon Mono X would actually have a bed large enough that I could put it flat. I could print this thing flat on the bottom could print the hood flat on the bottom instead of going vertical with it. So that means you can print more objects on it in one print than you could with the others.
So you're saying if I wanted to build big stuff, I need the Anycubic Photon Mono X. Is that correct?
That's right.
And
Now, it all depends on what your application is.
Okay.
So if you're building fine detailed stuff, like look at these 2 Clydesdales for comparison. This one's printed using FDM.
Okay.
And you can really see the striation lines on it, the print lines,
I'm showing
pretty readily.
close B-roll of this
Right,
with the
right.
camera so we can all see that together.
And
I can
you
see
have
it under the lines.
And
Yeah,
you
I
have
can
this
too.
Clydesdale here. This was printed with the stereolithography resin.
That looks like a Fraser
and
Clydesdale.
And it's
perfect.
It's a much smoother print. So for those fine detail prints, you'll definitely want this one of these resin printers.
Okay.
Now the FDM printers are good if you're doing buildings,
Right.
things where the lines don't matter. If you have say a building with clapboard siding, that can help mask those lines, and it'll be actually a sturdier build than with the resin. There's actually been tests on YouTube where people have done the resin print of an object, say like a bolt, a 3D printed bolt, and they find that the resin will actually break much sooner than the FDM printed one will, and that's because of the layering process on the FDM. Now, the FDM does have an application in most of my regular model building because that's how I make my speakers, or any of these objects where the print lines don't quite matter as much.
Right.
That you can use these FDM printers fairly regularly. The resin or the resolution on these printers is improving all the time. So there's that as well. So the final items that we have on the paper are the Anycubic Wash and Cure.
Okay, and what are those for?
And so what those are for, they all feature a wash vat so that you can fill your 99% isopropyl alcohol into that wash vat to clean off any resin that happens to be sticking to your model after the print process. So you wash it, and then after you wash it, and it has a magnetic propeller that goes at the bottom of the vat It has some rare earth magnets underneath that'll spin that propeller to agitate the solution around the model. So you set it to cure or you set it in that bath to cure for a few minutes, and then you take it out of the bath, and then you put it into the cure process. And both of these have UV LEDs and a turntable for the curing, so that it rotates your model for you, so that it gets a good even
so the
cure
whole model spins.
around. Yeah, the whole model spins, and that really helps bring out some of the detailing on it.
Okay.
So you need to have these to wash, to cleanse
Right.
and clean, no
And-
matter if you're getting whatever printer.
And
you're
so
getting.
the
Is
main
that for resin printers, or do you need that for a filament printer?
you need them for resin printers.
Okay,
The
so- Okay,
filaments,
not for
the
the
filaments you don't
filament.
need them.
Okay.
The filaments you don't need them. But the final point on that is that the 2.0, there's the Wash and Cure 2.0.
Right.
That goes with the Mono SE build volume.
Okay.
And the other one is the Wash and Cure Plus goes with the Photon X.
So it's bigger.
So it's bigger to match that build volume.
Wow.
So I need this and this if I'm gonna get the
Yeah,
resin printer.
yeah.
Photon Mono SE for you, and the smaller Wash and Cure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it really all depends. You got to think about what build volumes you want to deal with. If you're going to be building larger models, then I'd say go for the X.
Right.
If you're going to be building a lot of details, like I know you were wanting propane tanks and that kind of thing, the Mono SE will do you fine.
And
for that.
so here's the big question, okay? So I go out and I purchase these and I bring them home. I need a computer as well to do anything onto these?
Yes.
Or
So what happens? You can download your STL from Thingiverse, or there's
So I can download things that are already made.
There's Cults,
Right.
3D, so
Okay.
you don't necessarily need to learn to do 3D design, but it helps along the line because you'll have something that you want that's not available anywhere else.
Right.
And there's a variety of softwares. My definite preference is to use Blender for that, but there's a variety of options available, and what it does, if you get it into that why am I blanking on the format?
I don't know. I'm learning. I'm learning everything you're saying. I don't
This is
even
very
know.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're allowed.
So pretty much you can download anything from
Right.
the internet onto my laptop, and then I have a cord just
Yeah.
like a regular printer that
Right,
I
so-
plug it in.
So
and
what you have for each of them, you either have an SD card,
Okay.
or you have a jump drive that you
Okay.
can put it onto.
Okay.
And the printer comes with the software that you need to convert that STL file. That's what it is, into the format understood by the printer. So it's all included with that.
Wow. Dude,
So-
this is amazing. GNLRoboticsUSA.com is where y'all could go and look at
Yeah.
to purchase these. If there's any questions, can people ask you in readers' comments and you'll go through and answer them?
Absolutely, I'll do my best to answer them.
Perfect.
But yeah, I talked to him, and he absolutely does do price matching with whatever Anycubic is offering on their printers.
That's great.
So yeah, that's pretty great. I see Facebook ads for Anycubic stuff all the time. In future, I think I'll go with these guys because if there's customer
Wow.
service that they can access with a phone call, that beats a Google search. Talking to a human really beats that.
You should do a clinic for the NMRA 2022 show, the Gateway Show coming up in St. Louis, because I think what you're talking about, people don't know, and the ones that do will even find your information fascinating.
I agree.
Wow.
I think I did sign up for something like that already. So
Sweet.
assuming it made it to the right place, I'll talk to Brad on, I guess, a week from Tuesday. We'll get it.
Or the folks can contact Greg Summerland at
Yeah.
glroboticsusa.com and ask him questions as well.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic, James. Good job. All right, tonight we're going to talk about something that I wanted to talk about on show number 25. I know, right? A long time ago.
Wow.
Michelle, the wonderful ex-wife, the wonderful mother of my children, took me to Grand Cayman Island back in 1999. And what I discovered out there on this wonderful island was a container port that is just the right size to fit on your layout. And then what do I mean by that? If you modeled a real container port, it could literally take up your entire basement if you did it right. And if you modeled a container ship, you're probably looking at something that would be 22 to 25 feet long in scale, which is almost unmanageable. This container port was so nice in that it was small. The ship itself that I'm going to show you is only, I figured 200 feet or 190 feet long. And I want to start with the container port itself, and I want to talk specifically about the crane that's used. I've got a crane on the table here that's got a sheepscot boom on it, and it's got a Keebri body. And this crane I built for an article that ran in Mainline Modeler back in 1998. In fact, it was on the cover of Mainline Modeler, which I've got hanging up down here in the basement. And it was really neat to build this model. It came out decent. And that's the type of model that they use, type of machine that they used in this small container port. It was just the right size. Now it had an apparatus hanging off of the end, and I'm going to bear with me as I pull off my glasses and go through these slides and show it to you. It's got something that hung off the end here that would actually trap and catch the container as it worked along. And I've got photographs of this crane that was used on the premises, and I'm running them on the screen right now. Here you can see a shot of the crane and the ship together, so you can get a good idea of what it was we were talking about. And there's our cruise ship in the background that we both got to cruise on. One last shot here of the crane, and there's two cranes in this shot. Again, it's a small port, and they're able to do things with a crane. Now, we've got a device on the table here, and what this is a model from Wheels of Time, and this is a BNSF HO scale PC90 Piggy Packer. And I've got an outdoor photograph that I shot of one of these when Jeff Meyer brought it by a few years ago. And this is a really nice model that I picked up at the RPM show when I visited with the guys from the 187th Vehicle Modelers Club. I don't recall what I paid for it, but it was a very reasonable price, something like in the $60 range. So that talks about the crane. Now let's talk about the container port itself. This container port, as I start showing you photographs on the screen, it held about 50 containers, I think, max. Tell me that's not the right size for somebody's layout, where you can actually build a water scene right next to where you're going to park the ship, right next to the tracks, and have the crane load these things right onto freight cars. In this case, on the island, obviously they didn't have a railroad in Grand Cayman. They would simply offload the trailers off the ship onto trucks. But in our case, we want to tie in the railroad and the trucks together, which is absolutely what you can do here. This ship was beautiful. It was called the Tropical Flyer. This would be something super easy for you to build, either out of wood or out of foam, and then laminate it with styrene. There's various ways to approach this construction project. But if you look at it, again, the ship's only about 190 feet long. It's long enough to hold 3 rows of 40-foot containers and then a row of 20-foot containers right behind the cabin of the ship. And as I show you the photographs here, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm going to run these photos rather rapidly. Here's a shot of the shoreline with a bunch of trailers with containers on them all lined up. And again, you can take the dimensions off of these slides, literally off the screen, because you can use like the lifeboat or the various things in these photographs to use as your dimensional size. The best thing that I always do when I build a model, like the tugboat that you've seen me build on the layout, was that I used the rungs of a ladder, because the rungs of a ladder are generally the same exact size, which allowed me to scale out the entire vessel when I built it. But again, I want to run as many slides as I can of this ship, various angles of the front and the side shots of it, so that you can get an idea about how manageable this is. And in fact, the rear end of the ship, if you look, it looks like it's got a drop-down tailgate on it. I don't know that that's the proper terminology of what you would call it, but it's obvious from looking at the design of the ship that it's extremely designed from functionality. Here's a side shot of the ship up close. Again, there's a ladder right there, and you can pretty much figure that those ladder rungs are probably about a foot apart, which will give you the numbers that you need. Here's another shot of the ship overall with that beautiful cruise ship in the background, and I'll tell you what, that was an awfully fun cruise. Thank you, Michelle, for taking me on that. That was fun. Here's a shot of the Tropical Flyer's rear tailgate, as I described. It's just simply a door that you can build out of styrene and just simply drop it down. So this is a project, again, that I wanted to share. Here's an overall shot one more time of the ship and the cranes in the background. Grand Cayman Islands, guys, if you're ever down there, the weather's beautiful, the water's crystal clear, and it was just an awesome trip. Thank you very much for taking me down there.
That must have been a small ship. Like, it's definitely smaller than the Panamax.
It's perfectly manageable for a layout, and that's something I always wanted to talk about on this show, because that, again, is an issue. If you're modeling a container port, you've got to keep it manageable to fit in the room.
Oh, absolutely.
This would be a great module unto itself, where you could build a 6-foot or 8-foot module, because you figure in HO scale 200 feet is just about this long. So rock and roll. Mike Buddy is here tonight, and you've got some police cars. Tell us what you've got, Mike.
Yeah, we had, on September 11th, we had fire apparatus.
Yes.
So I decided to bring some police apparatus.
Is that the
These-
correct terminology, Campbell? Police apparatus?
Well,
Police cars.
that's what I always call them.
Fire trucks.
But anyway, these white ones on the right here are St. Louis City police cars, and St. Louis is unusual in that it's not in any county. It's surrounded by St. Louis County, but it's a totally different government than the city. So there's the city police and the county police, and these are from around 1978. That's my era. These are all like mid-70s cars that I used to look for in my mirror all the time.
Sam Dennehy, wherever you are, we need a bluesmobile up here now.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
Yeah, there's one of these cars is the right kind. This
Yep.
74 Dodge Monaco.
Yeah,
but,
that's right.
There was tons
St.
of
Louis
crash.
County used a lot of Chrysler products because of the Chrysler plant in Fenton. They built all the Dodges and Plymouth four-door sedans that the St. Louis County Police Department used for years.
Yeah.
And, so they were brown, and they all had that same seal on the door. So I had William Brillinger up at a Precision Design Company in Canada. He made door insignias for me for the St. Louis County and City Police. And so those are just a bunch of different resin cast cars. Some of them might have originated as 3D prints, I don't know, but they all look the same in that brown.
Yeah, super
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I sure remember those.
Well, and,
Yeah.
and you know how to clean them up too, so that they look like mold.
Yeah.
I'd love to find some police officers that work for St. Louis County now that are involved in the hobby that we could have come by
Well,
here.
Kurt
and ride with.
Rudolph.
We do know Kurt, yep.
Yeah. And yeah.
One time there was a police car at the end of Susan Road, and I rode my bike down to the end of the road because I was always social. I was about 9 years old, I think I was. And police cars had air conditioning, and this was a hot summer day. And I remember putting my head in the passenger window of the car just to feel that cool air blowing on my face. And right there in the seat of the police car seat in the front was a Model Railroader magazine.
Nice.
And this was the first time I met Lenny Applebaum, God bless him. He was just a wonderful fella. But I brought him home here and I showed him my 4x8 Tyco layout, and he was very patient with me and very kind to me.
And you
Later
were-
on, as I was in high school, I would sit in the squad car with him right before school and socialize with him and look at the magazines and talk about trains. And at that point, everybody thought that I was a school narc.
Shoot.
So it
I
was
would.
kind of difficult.
I would have.
I know, right? People distanced
Yeah.
themselves from me as I came in. All right, guys, let's go around the table one more time. I think, have we talked about everything tonight?
I think so.
Yeah, I guess.
Right?
I do.
Campbell Rice, I want to say you did an absolutely fantastic job on that September 11th show that we did. I don't
Yes.
recall what number it was, but describing all of the fire trucks and the introduction that you did was just,
Amazing.
yes.
Absolutely.
Couldn't have said it any better
Yes.
myself. We love you, Campbell. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for running
thanks.
camera tonight. Mike, buddy. James Regier, good job on the printers. I could have never said what you just said.
Yep.
Joshua Barton makes everybody smile. I love it when you're here. I'm Ken Patterson. And with that, gentlemen, we're going to take our NCE power cab and system that is not on the table tonight, but you know what it looks like. It's one of the most amazing DCC systems that I've ever used, and we're going to go run some trains.
That's right.
Best hobby in the world, guys.
Let's go cards!
Yeah. All right, now we get to do the famous thumbnail shot. What do you think? Was that good?
Yeah.
Good job on the descriptions. I couldn't
Yeah.
have done what you just did. So I hope that people
Yeah.
know and answer their questions. I really, because
Yeah.
I already have questions.
You gave a
on
lot
that.
more information than I even knew existed on
I know,
each of
right?
those, so I think they're
All right, guys, let's figure out what we're doing for a thumbnail, right? Everybody grab a model and let's show them some teeth. Ready? 3, 2. Here we go. Smile, James. Look at the camera and smile.
well, that's mean.
Thank you, Campbell. All right, guys, we did it. Show number 171, kill cameras, let's kill sound.
What was our time on that?
30,
Take off the mic.
31 minutes.
Yeah, that one. I saw one. It was a wild